And I'm just going to have you to please introduce yourself and explain who it is in your family that's been diagnosed with Asperger's. Go ahead.
I'm Alicia McGee. My husband, Paul McGee, has Aspergers Syndrome. He was never officially diagnosed until his cousin, who's now 21, got diagnosed. Originally, he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So it wasn't until, I want to say he was in his early 30s that he got truly diagnosed with Asperger's.
Wow. Okay. Please tell us how your spouse has communication skills that are impacted by the diagnosis.
He doesn't understand body language. He has a hard time knowing what someone's, even sometimes the words they use, he has a hard time processing their emotional value. He lacks empathy on a one-on-one basis, but he has enormous empathy for like a global, like children starving in Africa really affects him emotionally, but if he sees his son trip and fall and cry, he kind of just says, okay, get up. He lacks that close empathy.
Gotcha.
And I think because of all that, he overcompensates when he meets strangers. Like he tries too hard because he says he doesn't. I think in his mind he says, I don't know what they're doing, so I'm gonna. He's overly friendly with strangers. He's overly tries to be polite and
it's kind of odd. It's very awkward.
It's very awkward and odd when I'm with him, and I know why he's doing it, and I'm just, I have to say, honey, stop.
I understand. So can you give us an example of how your spouse demonstrates like sensory processing differences in comparison to like his typical peers, like other people his age?
He avoids social interaction at all costs. In the 9 years we've been together, I'm only allowed 2 big social things a year, so I have to choose wisely. And then he has a very hard time with smells. We have hardly any lotions in the house. All of our soaps, all of our laundry detergent, everything is odorless.
Okay.
Because he can smell things a mile away, and he just freaks out.
Gotcha. Does it just like irritate him, or just that like it's so overwhelming that
it's so overwhelming he gets himself sick over it?
Oh wow. Okay. All right. Can you explain how your spouse socially relates to others? And, for example, what kind of emotional reactions does he have with social situations? And you kind of said that a little bit, but can you elaborate, like pick a particular incident that you could explain to us?
When we go out in public, like just now we went shopping and we ran into Jennifer's husband, and he is trying to have this guy conversation, and even though he knows everything in his head, he doesn't know how to communicate. So he just kept rambling on, and I'm like, honey, stop, Jerry has to go. And that's what he does. He's overly nice to strangers, and he rambles, and he's constantly trying to make sure that their needs are met, because I guess in his mind that's what he thinks he has to do to overcompensate, that he doesn't understand what they need.
Right.
And he comes off sometimes very pushy, sometimes even very arrogant, because he's just overly compensating.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting. How would you describe your spouse's cognitive abilities?
He's actually, it depends. Like he's a computer science. He is genius when it comes to that. With his hands, he's extremely handy. He doesn't have, like our son who has, normal autism, classic autism, has difficulty just doing basic motor skills.
Right.
Paul doesn't have that problem. What Paul has, though, is the common sense things. He doesn't get that. Like left and right, he doesn't know left and right. When we're driving, I have to go this way or that way.
Gotcha.
I'm trying to think some other, like some silly stuff that you and I take for granted.
Right.
He can't get at all. But then, he understands quantum physics and tries to explain it to me, and
yeah.
he
we know that what he's talking about too.
Exactly. I mean, he understands the most complex. He looks at schematics on the internet and then rebuilds the thing. Never went to school for any of it. He can just look at it and rebuild it. But then again, like the left and right, he doesn't get it.
Right.
Or he's lived in Florida for 20-something years, and he's lived in St. Pete and Tampa, but we'll go to the same place and he'll go, how do I get there? It's those things. It's right. Like you and I are...
General spatiality.
Yes.
you know,
Like you
like
and
community skills.
Exactly. You and I could, in our sleep, drive to something we've done 100 times. He can't do that.
Right.
So.
Where's the GPS?
That's exactly it. He does everything with his GPS because he can't remember. It's
right.
insane.
Yep. It's a good compensating skill, though. It just shows that technology really does help those who need it, you know. I am directionally challenged also. Please describe how you or your spouse, his fine and gross motor skills, how they affect his daily living skills.
He doesn't really have gross motor issue.
Like running and that kind of stuff. He's not clumsy or anything.
No, he's not at all.
And fine motor skills, like you said, he can build a computer.
He's really good with even the most minute things. So that part of the condition he doesn't really have. I don't really see it in any of his family that has the condition either.
Is he almost like obsessively
obsessive,
fine motor
compulsive.
skills? You know, like like when it comes, it's very intricate and very precise, and he like the small things are like really important, and he's able to do those better than maybe say, you know, like go plant something in the garden or something.
It's not so much that he's more able to do it. It's, I think the fine motor just stimulates his brain so much. The smaller the project, the more difficult the project. I think it stimulates him so much that's why he's so good at it, because he's constantly firing.
Right.
Whereas stick of plants in the ground is not stimulating.
Right.
So he's like, whatever.
Right.
So, because I've noticed that when it comes to building a computer, he would do it for hours, and he's, you know, all into it, and then it's fix the broken sink and whatever, and you know he'll do somebody's not capable of doing it. It's just I don't think it stimulates him enough.
It's not enough to engage him.
Exactly.
It's not complex enough to keep his attention long enough to do it. Right.
And he does have an attention span issue where, like, he does it to me every day. It's why are we here again?
Yeah.
Really? You just asked me that question.
Yeah.
So
the attention, it appears as attention deficit, but it's not really. It's just a symptom of the Asperger's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you.